Dr. Klinghardt, thank you so much for being here. You are this icon, and I can't believe I actually get to talk to you here, right here. So thank you so much for being here. You have such an incredibly diverse background. You practiced and worked in both United States and Europe, right? And you also have a medical degree, and you also have some Eastern healing practices in you, right? So could you please tell us, with all of your knowledge, what do you think is the root of all disease?
That's an easy question to answer.
Really? Okay, that's good.
It's the interaction between the environment that we live in and the human body. Whatever prepared us over like the last 3 million years to be here, has really set us up that we would be healthy for a whole life if we would live in a healthy environment. But the environment that was with us for 3 million years, we changed dramatically in the last 200 years, and especially in the last 30 years, where health is really not possible in the current environment. And so non-health is the current normal. And we're all trying to figure out how to bring the human body forward in time where it can actually exist in the current toxic and electromagnetic environment that is so dramatically changed that really, when we're honest, we don't see a possibility of complete health. There is a possibility of relative health. And so when you ask me, for the causes of illness, it's pretty easy. There's 20,000 man-made chemicals, not in the environment, but already in our body that are interacting with each other. And it's all potentized by the electromagnetic radiation that we have that breaks open our blood-brain barrier, breaks open the cell wall, it turns on the wrong enzymes at the wrong moment. And so we have a big task ahead. And as older people, we are pretty resilient, but people that grow up in this toxic environment, now the fetus and the young child, there's almost no possibility that we see that we will have healthy adults coming into the future, which is, some of us get worried about it, some of us are excited about it, some of us see it as a business opportunity. And so there's different ways of reacting to it. What shocks us is the lack of responsible response by the bodies, the elected bodies of government that govern us, or the lack of response by the media. The media are completely cooperating with what's actually leading to these adverse conditions. And so we're all surprised that we in the healing community, find ourselves pretty much on our own. We see a disaster unfolding in front of it, and then we look who else is there who understands this and sees this, and we try to communicate with the people that could actually make changes, and we don't see any viable response. So that's pretty much where all of us scientists are right now.
So this is a very sad picture and really terrifying, to be honest with you, to hear that. So you say that pretty much most of us have some sort of chronic disease at this point, and that the United States is actually leading. How come? Could you explain to us why the United States is in such a difficult situation?
Out of a recent statistic, out of 42 countries examined for the general health, the longevity, and the healthy years that we have before we are dependent on medicine, US is amongst the last 3 of those. And there is, of course, reasons. One is very clearly the fluoridation of the water, which very early calcifies the pineal gland, which has a dominating role in our neuroendocrine system. And by calcifying that, basically immobilizing that, it sets us up for a lot of dysfunction in the body. But also, some of us believe that the pineal gland also connects us to the higher world, and by disconnecting us from that, which some of us believe is intentional, we're setting the stage for chronic illness, and then we're adding in the ever increasing vaccine program, which we know from good published research. There's glyphosate in vaccines, there's lead in all the vaccines that were tested, there's retroviruses in many vaccines, and so again, it's possible to make clean vaccines, and I'm certainly not against vaccination, but the way vaccines are used right now is completely irresponsible and setting the stage for chronic illness later in life. Then there is the geoengineering program, which I really shouldn't talk about, but there is lots of nanoparticles in the air that we breathe, which has been shown to shrink the volume of the brain, which basically dumbs us down, and has many other, and has huge effects on the environment. The oceans are now covered with a layer of these nano beads of plastic that's spiked with aluminum and titanium, which are meant to be suspended in the sky to shield us from excessive sunlight. But whatever goes up goes down, so the oceans are blanketed by that now. And the media are all looking at the plastic bottles and other things that never break down to these nanoparticles. That's man-made stuff, and covers the oceans and prevents the oceans from evaporating water. So the whole atmosphere is drying up dramatically, creating deserts at unprecedented speeds everywhere over the planet. And so we're watching that unfold. So it's affecting, these are, and then the last thing, of course, is the toxins in the food chain, the glyphosate and atrazine and other chemicals that are used to make vegetables bigger and crops bigger, and to kill insects, and along with that also the good soil bacteria and all the good things in the food. And we wouldn't be that upset about it. We'd say, okay, there's so many people on the planet now, we need to feed them. But there is alternative farming methods which would produce just as beautiful crops with a little bit more hands-on labor. And most people in the world would be willing to do that if they know what the real price is for the toxic food production. But again, the media are cooperating with the forces that do that, and so people are not informed and cannot make an informed choice. And so in the US, we're leading in the use of glyphosate, toxic food, we're leading in the toxic air. Well, India is now trying to catch up. We're leading, our children get the largest amount of vaccines that are currently not clean. We're the only country that's throughout the country now uses fluoridated water, which really is a completely unscientific, and it's been shown that what may work is painting the teeth with fluoride, but what has been shown by taking it in the water actually doesn't work, doesn't prevent tooth decay, but it lowers the IQ of people. And when I came to America, I was wondering, because in Germany I was average at everything. Maybe high average, but I was average. I came over here and I saw occasional lights of incredible intelligence, but very few. And the rest of the people, I suddenly moved to where I was one of the more intelligent people in a larger group of people, which was for me a wonderful. But I realized, that America is in the process really of committing a mass suicide, if you want, by the way things are done here. Whatever the forces are behind it, we really don't understand. We don't any longer believe it's about money or even power. It's about control. We do believe that there is forces behind the government, that the government is not in control of, that are doing this. Because when we interview people that are in high positions in government or even in the secret services, so all of them are good people, but they don't see the big picture.
There's lack of education and awareness, absolutely.
And the big picture comes together in a doctor's office. When you see autistic children every day, they break your heart. when you see a young man, 25 years old, being bedbound, for years already, having missed all the years of joy and development. When your heart is broken as a physician every day by what you see, and you see the causes of it that are so preventable and so unnecessary, the picture emerges that there is a will behind the scenes to make it this way. It can no longer be explained by coincidence. Well, we did some stupid thing here and a stupid thing there. It suddenly comes together where the stupid things are all lining up, that there's an intent in there to want it this way. And so we, the people, have to eventually speak up.
But you yourself, you have a really great experience with reversing certain diseases that traditionally are like cancer or autism, right? Could you talk a little bit why you're successful with this?
Yeah, I want to say, I have an institute, Klingharddt Institute, where we give people very, very clear guidance of how to move themselves out of illness, but also how to prevent illness. And so I'll lead you through a few steps. So if it's in the US, rule number one, you have to switch off your Wi-Fi router at least at night to stop the intrusion into your cells and into your brain from energies that have been shown to be damaging to it. As easy as flicking the switch. The second one is you have to get the nanonized aluminum out of your brain, out of your body. We do that with herbs that have high silica content. We have the main aluminum researcher in the world, Professor Chris Exley, has found a particular water from Malaysia called acilis that removes aluminum from the brain very effectively in a relatively short time. We use a little bit of biophysics. It's an ionic foot bath where I have shown that it dramatically increases the aluminum excretion. So that would be number two. And number three, we need to get the glyphosate out of people. And we do that with peat rock extracts. It's a black kind of fluid that has humic acid and fulvic acid in it. These are the three big things that I request of people to start with. And then we look with my diagnostic system called ART, we look at what are these three things everybody is affected by. And it's a foundation, it's a reason why most physicians have no success with chronic illness, because they can't see those three things. And by us doing those three things first, then we move more into the realm of normal functional medicine, where we're looking at deficiencies on particular other toxins and trauma, psychological trauma, physical trauma, and deal just with the common sense issues. And that has worked very well.
So could you please explain very briefly what is autonomic response testing technique?
Yeah, so first of all, to make a diagnosis, we do lab work, we do physical exam, imaging techniques, but then we developed out of the many energetic testing techniques, a special testing technique that was really originated in my thesis. My doctoral thesis was on the autonomic nervous system. And I understood, this is in the mid-70s, that the autonomic nervous system really regulates every function in the body. And that we need to take a closer look at that. And that every chronic illness is accompanied by dysfunction in the autonomic nervous system. And if we can correct the autonomic nervous system dysfunction, the chronic illness, even metabolic changes, chemical changes, reverse. And that is a system that regulates our metabolism. Everybody looks at the metabolism, the biochemistry, the cholesterol and how can we lower this and the blood sugar and that, but the pancreas and the liver, they're all organized by the autonomic nervous system, what they do. So we developed a system that is really has evolved from understanding electroacupuncture, according to Dr. Voll. This is also called electrodermal testing, applied kinesiology. My big mentor was Professor Umura of New York, a Japanese-born genius who developed another form of muscle reflex testing. And I basically extracted from the different system the things that I understood were directly directed at assessing the health of the autonomic nervous system. So it's a very brief, simple exam that we're adding to the medical exam, and that gives us not only where the body is ailing, but it gives us the why it is ailing and what to do to fix it. And then a good exam takes no more than 20 minutes, and so it's very wonderfully easily to incorporate it into any medical practice, whether it's normal medicine. We have brain surgeons using it, we have heart surgeons using it, but we also have massage therapists doing it, and herbalists doing it, and homeopaths doing it, and faith healers doing it. So the technique is so foundational it can be applied in any healing capacity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. What are you currently working on? What is your or it's a secret?
No, I have no secret. First of all, I practice both in Switzerland and in the US. And the wonderful thing is that the US is about 8 to 10 years ahead with the illnesses, so I can gain the knowledge here and bring it back to Europe and say, listen guys, don't do this, because if you do this, that will happen. And
so sad.
In Europe I have more people listening to me. So my main focus really at this point is education. We see the seriousness of where we're going and the damage that is created by the current environmental issues is growing exponentially. And so even people that don't see it today, in 2 or 3 years, they will. It's very rapidly. We've lost 75% of all insects in the last few years, and with that, 75% of the songbirds. And then, if there's no songbird left in a few years, maybe a few people wake up. We already had the issue with the bees, but it's all the insects right now. And so, I'm really working more on ideas of agriculture. We had a big meeting in Europe with 800 or 900 people, educating them on alternative forms of agriculture, how food can be grown for everybody alive on the planet. In fact, they did the math. The planet can actually easily feed 32 billion people. We are not overcrowded. It's just the way we're individually living is not sustainable. And so we're working on models of agriculture, of lifestyle, of transportation, of energy that is sustainable. And that's my passion is that right now.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you for bringing the awareness to all of us, and hopefully this video will spread more awareness about this very difficult problem that we are facing right now here in the United States especially. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you.